Narayan Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Dide Nashtakrai Yovartveshu Satyam Mahalatachyam Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhagavati Nashtake. So continuing with the discussion on Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita by Srila Goswami, Volume 3, only he could lead them. San Francisco, India, 1967. Chapter 24th, New Jagannath Puri. So Prabhupada is in San Francisco, but he is coordinating with devotees in New York who lost $5,000-6,000 on a real estate deal. But what happens one day, this is amazing. One day, Malti hurried into Srila Prabhupada's apartment, took a small item out of her shopping bag and placed it on Prabhupada's desk for his inspection. What is this, Swamiji? Srila Prabhupada looked down and beheld a 3-inch wooden doll with a flat head, a black, smiling face, and big round eyes. The figure had stubby, forward jutting arms and a simple green and yellow torso with no visible feet. Srila Prabhupada immediately folded his palms and bowed his head, offering the little figure respects. You have brought Lord Jagannath, the Lord of the universe, he said, smiling and bright-eyed. He is Krishna, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada beamed with pleasure while Malti and others sat amazed at the good fortune of seeing Swamiji so pleased. So, actually, Jagannathji is the first deity of ISKCON. So Malti Mataji, she brought very small 3-inch tall Jagannathji for Prabhupada to see. She didn't know who is this. Prabhupada explained that this was Lord Jagannath, a deity of Krishna worshipped all over India for thousands of years. Jagannath, he said, is worshipped along with 2 other deities, his brother Balram and his sister Subhadra. Excitedly, Malti confirmed that there were other similar figures at Cost Plus, the import store where she had found the little Jagannath. And Srila Prabhupada said she should go back and buy them. Prabhupada told her husband, Shamsundar, and together they hurried back and brought the 2 other dolls in the set. Srila Prabhupada placed the black-faced, smiling Jagannath on the right. In the center, he placed the smallest figure, Subhadra, who had a red, smiling mouth and a rectangular black and yellow torso. The third figure, Balram, with a white, round head, red-rimmed eyes, and a happy red smile, had the forward jutting arms like Jagannath and a blue and yellow base. Prabhupada placed him next to Subhadra. As Prabhupada looked at them together on his desk, he asked if anyone knew how to carve. Means how to carve deities out of wood. Shamsundar said yes, he was a wood sculptor, and Prabhupada asked him to carve 3 feet high copies of little Jagannath, Balram, and Subhadra, from 3 inches to 3 feet tall. More than 2,000 years ago, Srila Prabhupada told them there was a king named Indradyumna, a devotee of Lord Krishna. Maharaj Indradyumna wanted a statue of the Lord as he had appeared when he and his brother and sister had traveled on chariots to the holy field of Kurukshetra during a solar eclipse. When the king requested a famous artist from the heavenly planets, Vishwakarma, to sculpture the form, Vishwakarma agreed on the condition that no one interrupts his work. The king waited for a long time while Vishwakarma worked behind locked doors. One day, however, the king felt he could wait no longer and he broke in to see the work in progress. Vishwakarma, true to his word, vanished, leaving behind the uncompleted forms of the 3 deities. The king was nevertheless so pleased with the wonderful forms of Krishna, Balram, and Subhadra that he decided to worship them as they were. He installed them in a temple and began worshipping them with great opulence. Since that time, Srila Prabhupada continued, Lord Jagannath has been worshipped all over India, especially in the province of Odisha. where there is a great temple of Lord Jagannath at Puri. Each year at Puri, during the gigantic Rath Yatra festival, millions of pilgrims from all over India come to worship Lord Jagannath, Balram, Subhadra, as the deities ride in procession on three huge cars. Lord Chaitanya, who spent the last 18 years of his life at Jagannath Puri, used to dance and chant in ecstasy before the deity of Lord Jagannath during the yearly Rath Yatra festival. Seeing this appearance of Lord Jagannath in San Francisco as the will of Krishna, Prabhupada said that they should be careful to receive and worship Lord Jagannath properly. If Shyamsundar could carve the forms, Prabhupada said, he would personally install them in the temple, and the devotees could then begin worshipping the deities. San Francisco, he said, could be renamed New Jagannath Puri. So they named the town San Francisco as New Jagannath Puri. He chanted Jagannatha Swami Nayan Pathagami Bhavatume. This is a mantra for Lord Jagannath. He said, Jagannath means Lord of the universe. O Lord of the universe, kindly be visible unto me. It is very auspicious that he has chosen to appear here. See, I mean, those who are not devotees, they will think, oh, he cost plus, that's a store. And they brought these figures from India, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra. But for devotee, like Prabhupada said, it's auspicious that he has decided to appear here. So this city should be called New Jagannath Puri. Shyamsundar bought 3 large blocks of hardwood, and Prabhupada made a sketch and pointed out a number of details. Using the small statues, Shyamsundar calculated ratios and new dimensions and began carving on the balcony of his apartment. Meanwhile, the devotees bought the rest of the tiny Jagannaths from cost plus, and it became a fashion to glue a little Jagannath to a simple necklace and wear them around the neck. Because Lord Jagannath was very liberal and merciful to the most fallen, Srila Prabhupada explained, the devotees would soon be able to worship him in their temple. And this Jagannath Baldeswara deity is still being worshipped in San Francisco. The worship of the forms of Radha and Krishna in the temple required very high, strict standards, which the devotees were not yet able to meet. But Lord Jagannath was so merciful that it could be worshipped in a simple way, mostly by chanting Hare Krishna, even if the devotees weren't very much advanced. Prabhupada said March 26, the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya, as a day for installing the deities. The devotees would have a big feast and begin worshipping Lord Jagannath. Prabhupada said they would have to build an altar, and he told them how to prepare it. While Shyamsundar hurried to finish his carving, a small splinter lodged itself in his hand, and the wound became infected. Finally, Shyamsundar got blood poisoning and became so sick that he had to go to the hospital. Lord Jagannath was taking away the reactions to Shyamsundar's previous sinful activities, Prabhupada said. So, obviously, anything that happens to us while serving the Lord means so much of our sinful activities, the reactions are going away. Lord is removing them. But there is also something happened. It didn't mention here. It's not mentioned here. Now, Shyam Sundar Prabhu, he used to smoke cigarettes. So even after initiation, he was smoking. And even while he was carving these deities, he was smoking. And now there are 3 deities, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra. So once I think he was working on Balramji's, and he had his cigarette pack on head of Jagannath, Lord Jagannath. I mean, he was smoking and he kept his cigarette pack on the head of Lord Jagannath. And Prabhupada came in at that time to see the progress. And Prabhupada saw the cigarette pack. And he didn't chastise Shyamsundar Prabhu. He did not say anything. All he said was, it's very unfortunate that you're letting something this big, he pointed the size of cigarette pack like this. He said, you're letting something this big come in between you and God. And he left. And that was the last day of Shyamsundar Prabhu smoke. He threw away everything. Can we imagine somebody doing this in India, leaving a cigarette pack on the head of Lord Jagannath? But this was a situation he had to deal with. And he had to guide them properly. On March 26th, the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya, Prabhupada said that during the morning they would stay together in the temple, read about Lord Chaitanya and hold kirtan. And in the evening, they would have a ceremony for installing Lord Jagannath. Having fasted until moonrise, they would then break fast with a prasadam feast. When Srila Prabhupada entered the temple that morning, he saw the work the devotees had done. The new altar stood in the rear of the room above, where his dais had been, and his dais was now on the right side of the room against the wall. From his seat, he would be able to see the altar very easily. The altar was a simple redwood plank 7 feet above the floor and fixed between two thick redwood pillars. A canopy covered the place where the devotees would stand. Below the altar hung Haridas's painting of Lord Chaitanya and his associates dancing during Kirtan. And behind the painting was a Madras backdrop. About 3 feet above the floor, a shelf below the painting held candlesticks and would be used for articles to be offered to the deities. Prabhupada took his seat. As usual, he led Kirtan and then chanted one round of japa with the devotees. Then he had Haigriv read aloud from the biographical sketch of Lord Chaitanya from the first volume of Srimad Bhagavatam. But many devotees were sleepy, despite Haigriv's reading loudly with force and elocution. Although Prabhupada was listening attentively and wanted the others to sit with him and hear about Lord Chaitanya, when he saw that so many were dozing, he stopped the reading and held them in the kirtan. Then he chanted japa with them for about 15 minutes. All right, he said, we will read again. Who will read? Lilamrita's hand flew up urgently. All right. He had her sit near his dais and someone placed a microphone before her. Lilamrita's reading presented a contrast to the deep tones of Haigriv, but she was another scholarly voice. Her careful pronunciation of the Sanskrit words and phrases were pleasing to Srila Prabhupada, and he several times commented, oh, very nice. Lilamrita was thrilled and read on intensely, determined to keep everyone awake. That evening, devotees and hippie guests filled the room to capacity. Prabhupada was present, and the mood was reverential and festive. It was a special event. The just finished deities sat on the altar and everyone was glancing at them as they stood on the redwood shelf beneath a yellow canopy. Their features illumined by spotlights. The deities wore no clothes or ornaments, but were freshly painted in bright black, red, white, green, yellow, and blue. They were smiling. Lord Srila Prabhupada was also glancing at them, looking up to their high altar. Prabhupada lectured about the 4 social and 4 spiritual orders of life described in the Vedic literatures. According to one's quality and work, he said, each person has a certain occupational duty. But the ultimate goal of that duty, he explained, is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. It doesn't matter if one is low-born or poor. Material qualification has nothing to do with spiritual evolution. Spiritual evolution is that with your talent, with your capacity, with your work, you have to satisfy the Supreme Lord. So, Varnashram system, he explained, but the ultimate goal is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. Prabhupada gave the example of Sridhar, an impoverished devotee of Lord Chaitanya, who earned the equivalent of less than 5 cents a day, yet offered half his earnings in worship of the Ganga. If one were rich, however, one should still give half his wealth to the service of the Lord. Prabhupada cited Rupa Goswami, who had given 50% of his wealth for Krishna consciousness, given 25% for his family, and saved 25% for emergencies. Suddenly, Prabhupada began speaking about the money his disciples in New York had lost, and 25% for himself, so that in times of emergency, because as soon as money is gone out of my hand, I have no control. We have recently lost $6,000, not here in our New York. So as soon as a check is out of hand, now it is gone. It's gone. Prabhupada gestured to indicate money flying like a bird out of his hand. At this reference to the troubling, entangling affair with Mr. Price and the foolish boys and the hard-earned money gone, Prabhupada paused for a moment. Then he continued with the lecture. Paying attention to Bhagwan, the Supreme Person, is practical, Srila Prabhupada said. Here is Krishna. Krishna's form is there. Krishna's color is there. Krishna's helmet is there. Krishna's advice is there. Krishna's instruction is there. Krishna's sound is there. Everything Krishna. Everything Krishna. There is no difficulty. And can we imagine Prabhupada installing Lord Jagannath deity in San Francisco, where nobody had any idea of deity worship? How to worship Lord Jagannath? They were only doing agarbatti offering, not even lamp. But the Lord is so merciful that he appeared to accept whatever services devotees, especially Srila Prabhupada, could provide. And later on, yes, all the standards were met. But at that time, nobody knew anything. Can you imagine mercy of Lord Jagannath? If you turn your attention to the impersonal and to the supersoul in the heart, as the yogis do, then it is very difficult. It's very difficult. You cannot fix your attention to the impersonal. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Klesho diktaras tesham avyakta asakta chetasam. Those who are attached to the impersonal feature of the absolute truth, their business is very troublesome. It's not like chanting, dancing, and eating. This is very nice, but that is very troublesome. And even if you speculate on the impersonal, the result that is achieved by working hard for many, many lives is that you'll have to also eventually come to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada continued describing Krishna as the Supreme Personality of God, citing evidence from scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Samhita. The first step in spiritual life, he explained, was to hear from Krishna himself. But Prabhupada warned that if one heard the class and then went outside and forgot, he could not improve. Whatever you are hearing, you should say to others. That is preaching. Prabhupada said, and he gave the example of how disciples are writing in back to Godhead what they had learned from their spiritual master. And to speak or write what one has heard, a person has to be thoughtful. You are hearing about Krishna and you have to think. Then you have to speak. Otherwise, it will not work. So, Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha, Yadhyaya Pujasycha. And you should worship. Therefore, you require this deity for worshipping. We have to think of, we have to speak, we have to hear, we have to worship. And should we do this occasionally? No, nityada, regularly. This is the process. So anyone who adopts this process, he can understand the absolute truth. This is the clear declaration of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you very much. Any questions? A young boy raised his hand and began earnestly. Well, you mentioned about how we should follow the supreme law, how we should be like what your spirit tells you, or what your supreme, whatever it tells you. I mean, whatever it tells you, and if you meditate a lot, you feel you should do something. Prabhupada, it's not something, it must be actual fact. Yeah, I mean like, so there is no question of something, Prabhupada. Boy, well, I see, Prabhupada, something is vague. You must speak. What is that something? So, boy, well, let's say he was confused, Prabhupada. That you cannot express. That means you have no idea. So we have to learn. This is the process. I'm speaking of the process. If you want to have knowledge, of the absolute truth, the first thing is faith. Then you must be thoughtful. Then you must be devoted, and you must hear from authentic sources. These are the different methods. And when you come to the ultimate knowledge from Brahman platform to Paramatma platform, then to the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead, then your duty shall be to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the perfection of your active life. These are the processes, and it is concluded that everyone, never mind what he is, his duty is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And how can we satisfy? We have to hear about him, we have to speak about him, we have to think about him, we have to worship him, and that is regularly, nityava. This will help you. But if we have no worship, if you have no thought, if you have no hearing, if you have no speaking, you're simply thinking of something, that something is not God. Boy, I mean, well, I'm so young, I didn't know what it meant. I don't know that, but Prabhupada, don't know that I'm speaking, that you have to know by these processes. We are all don't know, so we have to know. This is the process. Young woman, since we don't yet understand the supreme law, because we are young and just new to this, then how can we speak about it, Prabhupada? Therefore, you have to hear. The first thing is Shrutavya. You have to hear. Unless you hear, how can you speak? We are therefore giving you facility to hear. You hear and then you can speak, then you can think. We are giving all facilities to hear, to speak, to think, to worship. This is the society's work. Unless you hear, well, how can you speak? The first task is given, Shrutavya. Then Kirtitavyascha, Dheya Pujasyascha Nityava. These are the processes. You have to hear, and hearing you have to repeat, chant, and then you have to think, you have to worship. These are the processes. Upendra, Swamiji, so we have to hear, I understand, but do we speak or do we first listen for a long time and then speak? Prabhupada, no, why a long time? Suppose you hear 2 lines, you repeat that 2 lines, and aside from everything else, you hear Hare Krishna, so you can chant Hare Krishna. What's the difficulty there? Shrutavya Kirtitavyascha, you have to hear and chant. So if you cannot remember all the topics which we are speaking from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, you can at least remember this, Hare Krishna. Therefore, it is the easiest process. You hear Hare Krishna and chant Hare Krishna. The other things will come automatically. So again, like Prabhupada is saying, we don't need to memorize everything, all the scriptures before we start preaching. Whatever we hear, we just say it. We use our mind because we have to make sure it's clear, the topic is clear, and then we speak. And as Prabhupada said, if you just don't know, remember all the topics, then chant Hare Krishna. That's also preaching. But we have to preach, simple as that. Okay, I guess we can stop and take up the rest of this conversation tomorrow. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Jai Jagannath.
Thank you, Mother. Jai Jagannath. Okay, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.